This is Wobbly Wallaby, and today I'll be analyzing the Time Machine for the March 10th to June 10th period in 2022. I'll go over the notable headwear in detail and also provide free-to-play alternatives so you can decide how to best use your reunion proofs and roles. First, there are some slight differences between the global and C Time Wish Machine. They're quite minor. I'll let you know which one I'm covering which are specific to a server. I'm still not sure why they make these machines different. I'm going to quickly scroll through the global machine and then the C machine after. Luckily, the 12 reunion proof and the 21 reunion proof headwears are the same. Next, let's start with the green quality headwear that costs 4 reunion proof. Do not buy any of these with your reunion proof. They are all bad. The best one here is the Enchanting Tail for the 5% move speed, which is good for farming. However, you could just replace it with the free-to-play Petite's Tail as an alternative. So there's nothing good here, and you'll be cursing the devs as you roll for these as you're trying to get something better. Next, let's move on to the blue quality headwear that costs either 10 or 12 reunion proof. Beware of the head items here that don't have sockets. Cards for the head are too valuable to give up, so please be careful. First, exclusively on the C server, there is the Knight's Silence for auto attack damage plus 4%, and the downside of critical -8. This is quite good for auto attack users, and if you don't have any better mouth, this is worth getting. When this first came out, it was pretty popular, but I don't see this being used much anymore. There's just better gacha mouths that have come out since then. Two free-to-play alternatives is the Abyss Whisper for attack plus 3% and magic attack plus 3%, or the Butterfly Breath for 5% damage to MVPs and mini monsters. You can get Butterfly's Breath from doing the Éclage story quests. Next, exclusively on global server, there is the Journey Under the Moon for all attributes plus 2 and physical and magic penetration plus 4%. The Golden Dragon Crown, which is craftable from the Yggdrasil tree in Wasteland, is very close and just differs by plus 1 to all attributes. In addition, the Journey Under the Moon does not have a socket, so definitely do not buy this. Next, exclusively on global server, there is Melody Wanderer for the notable auto attack damage plus 4%. An alternative is the Hidden Clock, which you can get from Cloudsea Archipelago, which is better since it also has skill damage plus 4%. I confirmed on romhandbook.com that both auto attack buffs are the same despite having different wording, so Hidden Clock is strictly better. As a result, don't buy this back item, unless you don't want to suffer through the Cloudsea Archipelago system. Next is Moonlight Swing. It provides penetration plus 5% and can cause bleeding during auto attack. You also deal an extra 5% damage to bleeding targets. For PvP, this tail is quite good. Bleeding doesn't work against bosses, so not great if you only care about PvE. The free-to-play alternative is Baby Owl, which also provides penetration plus 5%. If you care about PvP and you're an auto attacker, this is one to consider. Next is Carousel Dream, which gives max HP plus 8%, stun resistance, and has a chance to put an attacker to sleep. This is a good headwear for support characters to stay alive for PvP. You can't put bosses to sleep, so it's not applicable there. Two free-to-play alternatives include the Budget Fox Ear Bell Ribbon for max HP plus 5%, and the Corsair, which gives 10% max HP when refined to 10. However, it is quite pricey. If you don't have a good max HP percent headwear, this is definitely a good one to buy. Next is Brilliant Love, which gives fire damage plus 10% and also a chance to counterattack with a fireball. If you do fire damage only, this is a huge buff. but if not, I'd rather choose a more flexible back item like the free-to-play Devil Wing. Next is Dream and Rainbow. This head item does 10% damage to brutes, and you take 10% less damage from brutes. I personally find this head to be too restrictive, so I wouldn't buy it. I would instead use the Golden Dragon Crown for a penetration percentage against all types of monsters, or a high refined White Knight Helm against bosses. Next is Neon Light. Every enhancement +1 gives Ignore Defense plus 0.1%. A level 170 character, which has maxed out the enhancement for this back item, will have 17% Ignore Magic Defense, which is huge. If you really lack Ignore Magic Defense, this is a nice back to have. I asked my Zenith guildmates how much Magic Ignore Defense they need. They recommended 160% for doing boss hunting. For tough PvE instances such as Komodo Legend or TTL, 200% Magic Ignore Defense is recommended. The free-to-play alternative is the Paradise Swing, which provides Ignore Magic Defense 3%, so it's nowhere near. Next is Watermelon Pop Rock, which provides max HP plus 3000, demi-human damage reduction plus 5%, and receive fire damage minus 20%. The free-to-play alternative is Angry Snarl, which has damage reduction of demi-human plus 5%, and also each refined level gives you an extra 1% demi-human damage reduction. I personally would choose Angry Snarl over Watermelon Pop because it is more flexible. During PvP, I feel like I'm being hit by all sorts of elements, so I'd only switch over to this if I knew I was going to be hit by a lot of fire. Next is Panel Guardian. It has skill damage plus 2% and skill delay minus 10%. The skill delay minus 10% is very unique, and very few gachas have this effect. You can farm more efficiently, and you can hit people quicker during PvP. This is a great utility tail that is nice to have. A free-to-play alternative is the Spirit's Blessing, which matches the skill damage plus 2% but doesn't have the skill delay reduction. Next is 1000 Mile Eye. This head item is good when it is refined to 6 because it provides 100 hit. The 100 hit is very useful for PvP, where you need very high hit to deal with Flea. For example, someone asked 8 months ago how much hit would a Novice Guardian need in PvP. I agree with Drohanvite's response, which is minimum 850. He also lists a few sources, such as the Galleon card, which will each provide 50 hit. I'd say it's a must-have if you lack hit and you enjoy PvP. You don't need high hit to hit bosses, so you don't need this for PvE. The free-to-play alternative is the Fashion Frontier, which provides hit for 5 points of strength. This isn't ideal if you don't benefit primarily with strength, but it's hard to find a head item which provides this much hit, which isn't a gacha. Next is Astral Monocle, which is great if you want more SP percentage. A build that benefits from this is the SP Stout Hunter build for PvP. The free-to-play alternative is the Trial Night Vision, which also has max SP plus 10% if refined to 10, and also grants 150 SP and 1000 HP. If you have access to Trial Night Vision, I would buy that instead, since it grants more SP, but it's just a bit pricey to get it. Next is Fluffy. This provides auto attack damage plus 3%, and also each 6 points of agi gives an additional auto attack damage by 0.1%. I see this tail being used quite a bit by auto attack users, so it's a great buy if you want to boost your damage. Unfortunately, no good free-to-play alternative exists, so generically, I always choose the Cecil's Tail if you're using any of those elements, or a high refine Summer Banana Split versus bosses. Next is Dragon Velvet. Its effect is unique since it provides a lot of auto attack damage reduction. 8%, and then each 10 enhancement level provides more auto attack damage reduction. Auto attack damage reduction is useful for PvP and not for PvE. There is no good alternative for this, so I just used an Angry Snarl for more demi-human damage reduction. I haven't seen this being used too much, so unless you're facing a ton of auto attackers, I wouldn't buy it unless you need this as a utility mouth. Next is Eastern Dragon Visage, which provides skill damage reduction plus 8%, and Refined to 6 has skill damage reduction plus 8%. This is very useful for PvP if people are hitting you with skills. It is also very useful for PvE where the bosses are also hitting you with skills. I'd say this is a must-buy for support and defensive classes, and in the past this was very coveted as well, so it's quite a good deal for 12 Reunion Proof. The free-to-play alternative is the Goblin Leader Mask, which provides damage reduction of human race plus 30%. Next are the purple quality headwears, which will cost 21 Reunion Proof. First is Starlight Lullaby. It provides magic damage plus 4%, cast time variable minus 5%, and when refined 6, all skills SP cost is minus 5%. I see this used a lot by magic users in the past, and even a few now. Since its release, there have been better mouths, so I would only get this if you don't have something better. A higher damage MVP mouth, magic penetration percentage, or skill damage mouths would also beat this 4% magic damage. Cast time variable reduction and SP costs aren't that important these days. I feel like a lot of these can be reduced by other means that weren't available back then when this was released. The free-to-play alternatives is the Abyss Whisper for 3% magic attack and the Butterfly Breath for 5% damage to bosses. Next is Star Love Song. It provides penetration plus 5% and when refined to 6 has ignore defense plus 5%. It's quite good for physical damage users, although it won't beat out some of the newer face gachas that provide more MVP damage or skill damage, which is why I don't see this being used as often anymore. Penetration percentage is great against tough bosses, so it is still good. Some free-to-play alternatives are Angel Spirit for 4% attack and Silent Sinking for 4% skill damage. When refined to 10, it gives 8% skill damage. Personally, I choose the plus 10 Silent Sinking over this face, although it is very expensive and hard to get. If you're an auto attacker and don't rely on skills, there's a better one coming up. Next is Illusory Light Mirror. It provides auto attack damage plus 10%, and when SP reaches 10%, move speed plus 15%. This face is one of the best faces for auto attack users such as Stella Hunters or Rune Masters. In my opinion, it's a must-buy for auto attackers, and among the purple headwear, this is the one that I would get, since its effects are so powerful in the past and even now. The free-to-play alternatives include Angel Spirit for attack and magic attack plus 4%, and the Dragon Scale Stripe. Dragon Scale Stripe is good for ranged auto attack users such as Stellar Hunters, who gain a ton of damage from the plus 10 dex. Next is Bottled Star, which gives magic penetration plus 5%, and when HP is 100%, gives magic penetration plus 3%. Magic penetration adds a ton of damage, and other free-to-play items don't come close. The free-to-play alternatives include Coif for magic damage plus 5%, or the White Knight Helm against bosses. However, against tough bosses where you would likely not be at 100% health, I would rather choose the high refined White Knight Helm, which would likely beat 5% magic penetration. Next is Ashy Star Flying Feather. It provides magic penetration plus 5% and magic attack plus 5%. Also, when killing a target, it restores 2% HP and SP and increases move speed by 30% for 3 seconds. For magic users, the magic penetration and magic attack is solid. However, its greatest potential is when it comes to farming. Even if you aren't a magic user, you can still benefit from these effects. It's basically the magic equivalent of the One-Eyed Captain, which is also used a lot for farming. Getting SP from killing monsters basically gives you unlimited SP, so you never have to eat 999 1-star foods. And moving 30% faster helps your farming efficiency immensely. This is a must-buy for farming. The free-to-play alternative is the Baby Owl for 5% magic penetration. Finally, it's the Jadeite Little White Dragon. It provides 5% penetration, and when attacking the target, you can stun them with Tail Whip, which lasts 2 rounds and happens once every 10 seconds. The tail is great for PvP since stunning people is annoying. It's also great for PvE since penetration plus 5% is really nice and no other tail does that. The free-to-play alternative is Cecil's tail if you're using elements, or Summer Banana Split versus bosses. I was seriously considering this tail, but then Team Leaks released the April 2022 tail Rockin' Rabbit, which gives 5% move speed and 10% damage to bosses. Since I do PvP casually, I'd rather spend BCC trying to roll for this tail instead. This tail is especially useful for Novice Guardians since it gives both move speed and 10% damage to bosses, so with both of those effects increasing damage, this would be strictly better than Jadeite Little White Dragon. This Period's Time Machine has a lot of great headwear. I hope you got a better idea of what you should invest in. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe.